We frequently discuss the likes of Yui Hasegawa, Sam Kerr and Alessia Russo on this channel, but WSL isn't just about the superstars. It's arguably the most competitive league in the world, and with that some players go under the radar. In this video I highlight players who are integral to their sides from Chelsea to Leicester but don't always get the plaudits they deserve. Number 1. Aoba Fujino. Fujino arrived at Manchester City in summer 2024 and I feel her performances at the start of her time at the Citizens were caught with a lot of criticism. This was mainly because Gareth Taylor was benching Chloe Kelly at the time in order to give Fujino minutes. And at the time, benching a perceived superstar for someone who was very inexperienced seemed like the wrong idea. But as the season progressed, we saw Fujino really fly at the back end of last season, and she's come into this campaign in flying form. 8 matches so far, 3 goals and an assist to her name, and if we take a look at her underlying numbers, she has been phenomenal. Looking at the data so far, she ranks in the 95th percentile for non-pen goals, 0.43 per 90, and this has been a huge change in Fujino's game. She's always been a really good ball carrier, always been a really competent dribbler, but it's that goal scoring, it's that clinicality that's become such an important part of Fujino's skill set. And especially when you consider just 1.71 shots per 90, that ranks her down in the 45th percentile, so she's not taking loads of shots and she's still scoring a lot of goals. The rest of her profile is always really strong, expected assists at 0.31 per 90 and assists at 0.14 per 90. That's the 85th and the 75th percentile respectively, and a really good ball carrier, 3.99 per 90, sees her in the 95th percentile amongst positional peers in the WSL. So she's been phenomenal to start this campaign, and what we're seeing from her is that she's becoming an even better ball carrier, an even better progressor, but it's really that finishing that's improved massively for me. She's a fantastic creator, fantastic finisher, and that end product is helping Man City to no end. And her improved finishing is shown in the goal she scored this season. Let's first take this goal in the game between Manchester City and West Ham. Now City are breaking through the middle. It's Viviana Miedema who turns the ball over here and is driving it forwards for City. What we can see is Fujino making this run. She doesn't want to be too wide, then she should be too far away from the goal, but she doesn't want to be too close to Miedema or to the defenders, because then it's going to make it easier for them to stop her and more difficult for Miedema to play the pass. But instead she gets this perfect position where she's able to just get just outside the defence. She receives the ball in the penalty area. It's probably a little wider than she would have liked, but on her weak foot she's able to drag this shot across goal. Really good technique, confident strike across the body and pass it past the West Ham goalkeeper. And this goal against Liverpool shows not just her striking technique, but also her movement off the ball to be able to create chances for herself and her teammates. So in this one, Yui Hasegawa was on the ball, and we see as this pass goes across to Jade Rose, we can observe Fujino dropping in. Now, she does this not only to make herself an option to receive the pass, but also to draw the midfielder out and create space. And this would create space for any City player to drive into. But it actually ends up being Fujino who's able to run into that space and create the chance. The ball goes out to the right-hand side here from Rose, and City are building down the right-hand side. And we see Fujino moves in here, just roaming into a more forward position, and we can see as this pass goes inside, she's going to drift into the pocket. She continues her run, she sees then the space opening up, and she bursts in behind. The pass is brilliant from Lohman to feed her through, and what she does really well here with the technique, Fujino, is plants that left foot. She gets her body over the ball and she's able to tighten her body then to be able to drive power through a low driven right footed shot. It's a really good technique. She probably doesn't get the shot 100% correct. I mean, Borgraf could have saved this one, but there's so much power on it. It's an incredibly difficult one to stop. Number 2, Asmita Ale. Like Fujino, Asmita Ale joined her current club Leicester City in the summer of 2024. However, in very different circumstances. Ale had spent the last season on loan at Leicester and, failing to break through at the Tottenham first team, decided to join there permanently. And last season under Amandine Mikel, she was absolutely crucial behind their brilliant defence. And when they did get the chance to let her go forwards, she excelled in that role as well. And she's been even more pivotal this campaign as Leicester have moved towards a very defensive brand of football under Rick Passmore. And we can see that in the data as well. If we take a look at our FB Ref Scout profile, we can see that she is incredibly strong on tackles, 3.00 per 90. That ranks her in the 70th percentile, and tackles won even higher at 2.22 per 90, 90th percentile. So more often than not, winning those tackles. Also really strong on blocks at 2.22 per 90, weirdly also in the 90th percentile, and really strong on things like ball recoveries at 5.78 per 90, and aerials won at 1.56 per 90 in the 97th percentile. So what we're seeing is really impressive defensive numbers behind Asmita Ale's game, and it shows it's a testament really to how defensive Leicester are. It's a real shame that we're not really seeing her get forwards this season. I mean, that's shown in those more attacking statistics. Progressive carries only at 1.00 per 90. Shot creating actions 1.00 per 90. That ranks down in the 13th percentile. Not getting a load of touches and not getting a single assist yet this season. And it's a shame we're not seeing more of the attacking side of her game. Because if we look back at this clip from last season, right at the end of last season, we can see our attacking prowess on full display. So in this game against West Ham United, the ball drops in midfield and we see those aerial wins that are already in Ale's game this season come into effect. She wins this header here. Now it falls quite kindly back into possession of Leicester and Ale's able to pick up the ball just above the halfway line here. Now what she's able to do is a fantastic pass through the lines. What she does is slots it between these two centre-halves. It's a well-timed run by Hannah Kane, slots it in behind, and it's a tidy finish from Kane to get Leicester's third of the game. But it all comes from Elle being assertive, winning the ball back, and then playing a fantastic ball, splitting the two centre-halves and creating that chance in behind for the Leicester forward. But focusing more on this season, let's take a look at the defensive side of her game. Now this comes from the game between Leicester and Arsenal. Now this was a match where Arsenal were incredibly dominant. They won this game quite comfortably, and the rest of the Leicester defence didn't do particularly well. But I thought Asmita Ale held her own in moments in this game. So this is in the 8th minute, and it's Beth Mead trying to take her on. Now the ball Mead receives the ball, on the right-hand side here. This is really smart from Asmita Ale. She closes the gap very well, and then she makes Mead make a decision. She doesn't dive in either way. She doesn't commit either way. She stands her up. Mead tries to go out wide of her, and it's really smart from Ale. She reads that, goes to ground at the right moment, and wins the ball back. Eventually, it does go out for an Arsenal corner, but she did really well to get out to it quickly, nullify the threat, and turn over the ball. Number 3, Nathalie Bjorn. In January 2024, Nathalie Bjorn joined Chelsea from Everton in a deal worth £125,000. Many at the time rightfully asked the question whether she'd be able to make the step up from Everton to a club like Chelsea. But what we've seen in the 2 years since is that she's been incredibly reliable and incredibly dependable for Chelsea, making that step up and probably being their most consistent performing defender. And if we take a look at the data set, she's been phenomenal this campaign. Aerials 1.59 per 90. That ranks her in the 87th percentile. Probably her strongest trait is those aerial challenges. Dominant in the air. Also very good at progressing the ball, very comfortable in general with the ball at her feet. 82nd percentile for progressive passes at 4.76 per 90, and pass completed in general 55.90, 79th percentile. So very secure passer as well. Switch is a little bit lower than you'd like them at 0.18 per 90, but still showing she's got that ability to switch the play if needed, and still some very solid defensive numbers considering that Chelsea don't do a whole lot of defending. They're a side who have a lot of the ball, don't often need to do much defending, but 73rd percentile for tackles this season, 1.72, and tackles and interceptions at 2.91 per 90. That ranks it in the 68th percentile. And I think this passage of play from the game between Chelsea and Tottenham perfectly encompasses why Nathalie Bjorn is absolutely excellent for Chelsea. So what we see is she receives the ball on the right-hand side here from Millie Bright, and immediately she opens up her body, receives it well, opens up her body, looking to play the ball down the line. It's a really good, accurate pass down the line. It gives Ellie Carpenter a good opportunity here because she's got time before Jess Naz is able to close it down. Now, Carpenter doesn't quite get out of her feet, doesn't quite work out for her in this scenario, but Chelsea build it back. And what we see here from Nathalie Bjorn is shuffling across to be able to support in that high position. Now Chelsea have to move it backwards, and it's Bright who receives it again, and she goes to the same pass back into Nathalie Bjorn. Now Nathalie Bjorn receives it again, and again we see the same sort of pass, that touch with her right foot to open up the body and then knocking it down the line, this time into Joanna Rytting-Kaneryd. Again, Chelsea try and break into the penalty area, this lasting a little bit longer this time, and eventually the attack does break down. They try and shift it inside here, but it is then won back with a good challenge in the box. Now what Tottenham immediately look to do is counter, and what we can see here from this screenshot, or as we pause it there, is that Nathalie Bjorn is already anticipating this. She's got a hand on the back of Tamberg, and she's got her 2 feet planted, expecting to have to turn in a moment. This ball gets played in behind. What she does immediately is that she's assertive and physical with Tamberg to shield her off, and then she's able to recover this ball well. She's very fast for a centre-back, knocks it back to Hampton, and there is the danger averted. So what we see in that clip, in that passage of play, is how she's able to be not only brilliant in possession, where she can receive the ball, look to spread it wide, but also very accurately and very fast, so she's got a good speed of pass, but also she's able to recover very quickly and offer really good in-rest defence. Number 4, Olivia Holdt. A much more recent addition to the WSL, Olivia Holdt joined Tottenham in January of this year. She struggled to make an immediate impact, with Robert Villaharm often using her off the bench, but she did impress in those limited opportunities. And coming into this season, when Martin Hove coming into the Tottenham manager position, we've seen a lot more of Olivia Holdt, and she started to impress. 2 goals in 6 starts so far this season, and the underlying numbers are also very impressive. Progressive passes and progressive carries super high for a player like Holdt. 5.88 per 90 if progressive passes is in the 95th percentile, and progressive carries at 3.56 per 90 sees it in the 85th percentile. And this shows what Tottenham have been lacking. What they missed last season under Robert Villaharm was that they didn't have Grace Clinton anymore, and they missed someone that could progress the ball. But this season we've seen Olivia Holdt fit into that mould. She's able to receive the ball and carry it forwards, or receive the ball and spread the play. And she's very good at being able to progress that ball. She's also an elite dribbler, and that's why we're seeing those progressive passes and carries so high. Successful take-ons as well, 1.96 per 90, that ranks her in the 95th percentile and shows even more her dribbling technique. This is further evidenced by this graph, which shows expected threat in the WSL in 25-26, and what we can see is that she's a huge outlier. While a lot of players are very good at progressive passes per 90, which we can see on this screen, and quite good at progressive carries, Olivia Holdt is excellent at both. So rather than being one of these players who's very much one or the other, or someone like Fujino who sits average in both, she excels in both areas. She's the best progressive carrier in the league, and she's one of the strongest progressive passers as well. And so this is a very unique brand of player, Olivia Holdt, a player who is able to not only be a progressive passer, have a fantastic passing range, but also able to carry the ball forwards. Typically you get one or the other. You get a player who wants to get the ball out wide, a winger who wants to carry it down the line, or a winger who wants to pass it forwards. But you don't tend to get an attacking player who wants to do both. So this is a really impressive part of Olivia Holdt's skill set, and it's why she's been so useful under Martin Hove this season. She can play on the left-hand side and offer someone who's going to come inside and be a massive attacking threat. She can play an attacking midfield where she could drop in and be a bit more creative, or attacking midfield where she can push forwards and be a fantastic threat in the final third. So Olivia Holdt is such a difficult player for opponents to deal with. And her brilliance is shown in her goal against Leicester City. We'll start here with Tottenham building out from the back, and it's Toko Kogo plays this pass inside to Evelina Summanen. Summanen's a player who just as easily could have featured in this list because I think she's so underrated. And what she does here is, because she's scanned behind her, she's able to receive this ball on her right foot and immediately turn and face forwards. And suddenly Tottenham are now looking to play forwards. And what Holdt has done really well here is drifted into this half space. You can see Summanen waiting for that movement. She carries it forward, and this is where Holdt jumps. She can see there's a space in between the centre backs. She points exactly where she wants the ball, and then she makes this run off the shoulder of the defender. The ball gets slipped in behind. It's a fantastic way of pass from Summanen to get it in the exact right position. Holdt then makes this bursting run forwards, and she's going to receive the ball in behind. She takes one touch to get herself a little closer to the goal, but she doesn't need another one because she lifts this brilliantly over the goalkeeper, and Tottenham leads. And it's a fantastic goal, a brilliant ball from Summanen not only, but also fantastic from Holdt to create that space, to drop into the half space and then make that run off the shoulder. And it's the half spaces that are exactly where Olivia Holdt thrives. If we look at how Tottenham have set up this season, it tends to be this 4-2-3-1 shape. What we see is whether she's used in attack midfield or on this left wing, she's able to operate in a very similar way. So we'll start with her on the left wing. Now, they often use England in this 10 position when they're using Holdt on the left. What they look to do in attacking areas is that they'll have a central striker here holding the line, and then what they like to do, Tottenham, is have one winger at one side, the fullback on the other, and this is always the left back Amanda Nilden, and this allows Holdt to operate in this half space, and then England or whoever else is playing attacking midfield in this right half space. It's why I'm particularly excited to see Signe Gautset in this role that Beth England's playing, because I think the combination of Holdt and Gautset will be devastating for teams. Holdt is excellent at operating in this sort of pocket, in this half space, where she can get a lot of space, where she can then be incredibly dangerous. And she can do the same thing on the other side. So if we see her playing in attacking midfield, she'll drift into the right half space. We'll see someone like Wimberg cutting in from the left to come into this half space, and we can see Holdt creating from this sort of position. Now, if she's on the right, she's more likely to be taking shots or crossing the ball into the box, taking shots across goal, that is. If she's on the left, she's more likely to be taking shots herself, where she's able to cut inside on that right foot and take aim. It's one of her trademark shots is from this right-hand side, coming in and then taking a shot across goal. It's very dangerous. I think she's fantastic at it, and she's fantastic at working in these half spaces, brilliant creating chances for herself and others. What we tend to see, that she'll pick up the ball in this sort of area and be able to release Nilden down the line, or release Tamberg in behind, or she'll be able to bring players like Wimberg in, or if she hasn't got really an attacking option on, she can bring in someone like Jelena Cankovic, who's excellent in these sorts of positions at being able to create chances. And what we see a lot of for Tottenham this season is that it's a little bit of an asymmetrical back three in rest defence, and Summerlin likes to drop into this sort of position here to receive the ball and then play these balls in behind. This left-hand side for Tottenham, this trio have worked really well together so far this campaign, and she's been the perfect replacement for Clinton, and they didn't even realise that, but she's been fantastic in this role this season. Number 5, Jelena Cankovic. Cankovic is a wonderfully technically gifted player and a brilliant presser as well. She's brilliant on both sides of the ball, and this well-roundedness shows up in her profile. Take a look at her FBref scout report. What you can see is that she's a goal-scoring midfielder, 0.17 goals per 90, or non-point goals per 90, ranked in the 87th percentile for midfielders in the WSL. Also, non-pen XG of 0.12 per 90, 79th percentile, and she takes 1.06 shots per 90 as well. Also very secure in possession, progressive pass of 6.62 per 90, ranks in the 85th percentile, and pass attempted 53.43 per 90 in the 77th percentile. A good pass completion rate as well, over 80%, and progressive carries at 0.89 per 90, which ranks her in the 60th percentile. Also successful take-ons really strong, 0.89 per 90, so she's really good with the ball at her feet, a very good progressor, good carries as well, and a really strong defensive player as well. What I love about Cankovic is how she's able to be involved in possession play in all three phases of the pitch. And what we see here is how she's able to drop into build-up. So she drops into the left-hand side here, similar to as I was just speaking about with Jelena Cankovic. She's able to drop into the left-hand side here, receive the pass from Minami and look immediately to progress it. She bounced it this time off of Haley. It's a fantastic bounce pass. She plays it in, wants to receive it back, continues this central run. She does really well here to hold onto the ball under pressure. It does take a slightly favourable bounce, but no bother. She holds onto the ball regardless. And it's a fantastic then lifted ball between the two centre halves, which is going to bounce through into McLaughlin, and McLaughlin should probably do better in this position. What we see there is Cankovic dropping in to form part of the build-up phase, be able to progress the ball herself, and then play that final ball to create an opportunity for Brighton. So all of that ball progression comes through Jelena Cankovic. And a few moments later, we see how her ingenuity gets out of trouble in build-up. What we see here is Brighton building up at the back, and it's Charlie's Rule who plays this ball out to the left-hand side, and it's Cankovic who's dropped in to receive it, and this allows Olessia to get up the line. Now Cankovic is looking to take it past this player, tries to take her on, and it's not really on. So she turns back and uses her options, goes back into Maisie Simmonds. They try again to play out, and this time it's Minami who plays it into Cankovic, who tries to turn her marker, not really going to work. So she decides to go backwards. And now that she's drawn Leicester in, it's a bit of skill from Cankovic to get out of this position and create a chance for Brighton. See, she opens up just enough space to be able to play this lifted ball across her own back line and then into the path of Melis and Pommet. And with that pass, if we stop it here, we can see she's taken 5 players out of Leicester's press, and Brighton are able to progress down the right-hand side and create an opportunity. And it's really smart from Cankovic, really smart from Brighton and Vidicic to use Cankovic in that role, to drop her into that position because she's got such a strong technical profile. She can get out of areas like that because of her skill set. And it's always nice to turn to the tactical pad to analyse what we've just looked at. So what we can see with Brighton this season is that they like to be very wide, very expansive in how they want to build up. So what they want to do immediately is push Olessia high, and a lot of this because they haven't really had a natural left winger. Now whether this will change a little bit with Haley coming back into the side remains to be seen, but what we tend to see is this left winger coming inside more. And so what they want to do to make up for this, they build up with a back three, but it's often this sort of asymmetrical back three, similar to what Tottenham were doing actually. This is often because they've got 3 centre-backs on the pitch, so they don't really use a natural right-back in that right-back position. So it's almost like a 5-back for Brighton this season because they've often used McLaughlin as a right winger due to their lack of options. And so what they often do is build up in this sort of asymmetrical back three. And what they do then is they drop Jelena Cankovic into this sort of position. And here she's able to pick up the ball, and what we see is Kirby dropping a little bit deeper to be involved, Simmonds in this sort of position. And so what you often get is this sort of split midfield partnership where Cankovic and Simmonds are a midfield pivot, but they're a little bit asymmetrical again. And again, it's all about, for Brighton, creating lots of different angles. And so Cankovic drops into this sort of position, and immediately you tend to get either Kirby drops here, or you see Simmonds pulls across, and then someone will push into this sort of role. And so what we saw in those examples was Cankovic getting the ball in this position, and then what they were doing, Brighton was drawing everybody across, apart from leaving just a couple players, and Pomé and McLaughlin, and then what they were able to do very effectively with players on this left-hand side of the pitch was draw Leicester across, and then suddenly play that ball out to the right-hand side, and Pomé got it, and then they could break down the right-hand side. So they overload one half of the pitch to draw the opposition in and then play through that pressure, because I've got brilliant players like Jelena Cankovic, like Mason Simmonds, like Moeka Minami, who are all very capable of playing through that press and are able to resist the press very well. And this is why Jelena Cankovic is so important. Vital in all phases of play. She can drop in and receive it, as we saw in another clip as well. She can drive this ball forward, and in the final third, when they get there, she's able to be a brilliant chance creator in these sorts of positions, where Brighton are able to use their width here with McLaughlin and Oleslargas, have this sort of back three built up on the halfway line, and then this Simmonds-Cankovic split pivot, Cankovic given a little bit more licence to move forwards into these sorts of positions and create opportunities for Brighton. So that is everything for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed looking through 5 underrated WSL players. If you want to check out more content like this, I listed 20 Wonderkids to look out for in Football Manager 26, so check that video on screen now. That was everything. Thank you guys very much for watching. Leave your suggestions in the comments down below of underrated players you would have included, and that is everything. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.